The 20th century has been especially characterized by the spread of democracy, people protesting about inequalities in governments, the excessive greed of elites and large corporations, and increasingly obvious unequal distribution of wealth and power in society. In the 1970s, protests over the Vietnam War, the Watergate scandal, and in Britain, economic unrest leading up to the election of Margaret Thatcher led to protest movements that included the ecology movement, demands for democracy in Ireland, and many more movements for social justice. Various forms of protest were demonstrated in the 1970s, but a major form of dissent that built onto the protest culture of the 1960s was the use of music as a means of expressing discontent. Protest music in the 1970s, as exemplified by Pink Floyd, demonstrated the right of citizens in an open society to speak their mind about social injustices, such as the excessive power of corporations and the government placing authority primarily with the wealthy elites, failing the responsibility of democratic governments to represent all of the people equally. Pink Floyd was an English band that began as a psychedelic group and evolved to theme-based music as protests became a larger part of their image and beliefs. Pink Floyd was formed in 1965 and by the early 1970s consisted of Roger Waters, Nick Mason, Richard Wright, and David Gilmour. Their music became a vehicle for protest against the power of mainstream culture to define the way people saw the world, focusing on themes such as corruption in governments, unequal distributions of wealth and power, and the exploitation of people and the economy by large corporations. Pink Floyd's most well-known album, 1973's Dark Side of the Moon, was the band's first concept album and focused on the chaos of everyday life, despite what commercials portrayed as achievable, perfect suburban lifestyles. Underlying this theme was criticism of the overwhelming power given to affluent upper classes to define how citizens develop their work and lives. This lyric from perhaps their most iconic song, Money, says it all.
Money, so they say, is the root of all evil today.
This idea focuses on the concept that our society is so wrapped up in pursuing wealth that it has taken over anything else previously viewed as important. Following that lyric comes this next line.
But if you ask for a rise, it's no surprise that they're giving none away.
The song Brain Damage provides a warning to individuals who buy into mass consumerism.
The lunatic is in my head. You raise the blade, you make the change, you rearrange me till I'm sane.
Thus, if you do give in to the money-obsessed world today, your individualism is forced to conform to the values of the price of everything, not that of artistry or creativity. Darkside represented the idea that the individual must consciously choose, as explained in the song Breathe, to
Look around, choose your own ground.
This album's focus is on the conscious choices about real values and not giving in to the illusions of superficial consumerism. Therefore, if you can hold out against today's obsessions with money and what others think of you, you will remain an individual with the potential to be a unique, creative part of the world, instead of a cog inside someone else's wheel. The reception of Dark Side of the Moon was astounding. It remained on the charts for 741 weeks, from 1973 to 1988. Rolling Stone stated in 1973 that Dark Side of the Moon seems to deal primarily with the fleetingness and depravity of human life. As Rolling Stone further noted, this was an album that compelled people to listen to it. Pink Floyd's 1975 album, Animals, aimed to criticize large, powerful corporations and corrupt governments. Animals references real-world issues where Pink Floyd compared corporations to pigs, mindless citizens to sheep, and those who spoke out as ready to fight dogs. The song titled Dogs emphasized the corruption in everyday societies.
You have to be trusted by the people that you lie to, so that when they turn their backs on you, you'll get the chance to put the knife in.
This song aimed to influence listeners to be careful who they put their trust in. The album's song Pigs, Three Different Ones, took on the entire theme of corruption at length. The opening lyric,
Pig man, ha ha.
sets the tone and continues. Such lyrics serve to cut self-regarding big wheels down to proper human size, while the later lyrics take on big political institutions.
Hey, you White House, ha ha, charade you are. You house proud town mouse, ha ha, charade you are.
Such lyrics displayed strong disapproval of the complicity a big government made with large corporations, as well as the government's decisions and actions to support businesses that polluted and manufactured the weapons of war with the blessing of the U.S. government. References such as Big Man, Pig Man, and Hey You White House directly attack the people and institutions that carried out these acts, while the album centers in on the idea that unless you stand up and fight for what is right, you will be nothing more than an average sheep.
Watching for pigs on the wing.
Another one of Pink Floyd's most well-recognized albums, The Wall, also focused on something bigger than just music. The theme of The Wall revolves around the damage done by an ineffective, overpowerful government that trains students to simple, unthinking conformity. A 26-track album, The Wall created a powerful and moving storyline. The song Mother asks,
Mother, should I trust the government?
bringing up the common wonderings of a young man. Should I get involved to make the world a better place? And if I do, will it be worth it? Also important, the song Hey You.
Hey you, don't help them to bury the lie. Don't give in without a fight.
Encourage listeners to fight for individuality. Meant to discourage conformity, these songs encourage the creative intelligence that is the hallmark of successful societies. Reception of The Wall was astonishing. It was one of the best-selling albums of 1980 and reached #1 on the U.S. Billboard chart. Rolling Stone described The Wall as the most startling rhetorical achievement in the group's singular 13-year career, and The Wall leaps to life with a relentless lyrical rage that's clearly genuine and, in its painstaking particularity, ultimately horrifying. Concept albums defined Pink Floyd's impact throughout the 70s and early 80s. Pink Floyd helped to educate a whole new generation of political activists critical of government, corporations, and their power. By doing this, they exposed corruption in government and its responsibility to equally represent all of the people. Political issues and ideas have always been present in Pink Floyd's music, but recently, Animals and The Wall have become vehicles for the Occupy movement to take on big corporations, governments, and wealthy elites. Roger Waters' recent concerts from London to San Francisco have highlighted the subversive ideas in Pink Floyd's music. As Roger Waters has recently said, the people are beginning to twig, beginning to go, no, there's something really wrong. I'm so happy to see that they're starting to appear in the streets. Slowly, they're beginning to realize that no, this is wrong. As Oakland Occupy organizer Kevin Seal states, Roger Waters has come out as a vocal supporter of the Occupy movement, using his privilege as a famous millionaire to encourage participation in Occupy and its varied offshoots. Even though Pink Floyd did not engage in direct political activism in the 1970s, they did something more important. They helped develop and sustain a protest culture suspicious of the abuses of power. By introducing a new generation to the power of protest music in the 1970s, they helped reinforce the right of citizens, even in a cynical age, to voice their opinions on issues by using the new medium of mass popular musical culture, criticizing the overwhelming power given to wealthy elites by the government and the excessive power of corporations. Today's internet-driven populist politics and the emergence of the Occupy movement demonstrate the continued relevance of Pink Floyd's music to many young people who continue to believe that things have to change. The persistence of countercultural politics in our own time owes much to the critical view of politics and government that Pink Floyd encouraged in the 1970s.